bow down, worship you.
We glorify your name.
We glorify your holy name.
We praise your holy name today.
Blessed be the name of Yah.
We praise you today.
Hallelujah.
We praise you today.
Hey everyone, it's Hadara. Some new music for you. All praise be to Yahuah. 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 Your word is true. Your word is the truth. Set apart in your truth. Set apart in your truth. Your word is true. Set apart in your truth. Set apart in your truth. There is none like you, oh yeah. There is none like you, oh yeah. There is none like you, oh yeah. There is none like you, oh yeah, oh yeah, none like you. Praise be to Yahuah. Praise be to Yahuah. All the praise be to Yahuah. Praise be to Yahuah. Your word is true. Your word is the truth. Set apart in your truth. Set apart in your truth. Your word is true. Your word is true. Set apart in your truth. Set apart in your truth. There is none like you, oh yeah. None like you, oh yeah. There is none like you, oh yeah. There is none like you, oh yeah, oh yeah. None like you, Yahuah. None like you, oh yeah, oh yeah. None like you, oh yeah.
Praises to Yahuah, who indeed is set apart and true. I want to say once again, Shabbat Shalom to you all, family. Good to be back. It is my hope that you enjoyed the break, enjoyed a reflection on a couple of the past lessons that we have shared in this fellowship. That was played during the break here on Fuse, and that you enjoyed the music also. It is good to be back, and so what we're going to do now, Mashpaka, is without any further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to get into our study for today. Give poor Shadi a little warm juice, not in this cup. Give him another cup. Yeah, so we're gonna without any further ado, we're gonna get into our lesson for today. We're in the book of Mashali, the book of Proverbs. Now we're at chapter 11. So far we have covered 10 chapters, and today we're going to the 11th chapter in the book of Mashali. It is my hope that our study here today will be a baraka to each and every one of you. I recognize that we're missing some of our family today. I realize that we don't have everybody. It is my prayer and my hope that everybody is safe nonetheless, and that is our only concern when we don't see the family. Not that you have to be here every time we assemble, but we just want to know that our family is okay. So prayerfully that's the case, and Yahuah is certainly committed and faithful to his people, and I believe that to be so. But that is our only concern. And so once again, welcome back. Welcome back, Mashpaka, to the family here on Fuse, and to the family on YouTube, and to any of our family who may be listening from Facebook. A wonderful thing is my brother, who is in Jamaica, he last week and the week before, he was listening from the live feed on Facebook, and I praise Yahuah for that and for that opportunity. He was having some trouble because there was a lot of buffering, but I think on one of the broadcasts he was okay. He was able to hear without any interruptions, but then on one of them he had a lot of problems. But I praise Yahuah for that possibility and for that opportunity where he was able to join the fellowship and listen in from near. And so we give Yahuah praise, honor, and esteem for that. And may he just continue to draw people to his word, and my family and your family, and may the awakening continue. Hallelujah. All right. Well, we're going to go to Tuda Rabbah, Akut Tuda Rabbah. We're going to go to the book of Mashali, chapter 11, and I'm going to do something a little bit different today, family. I'm going to change the view. I'm going to change the way we look at the scriptures here today. And I'm not going deep. I'm just opening it from a lexicon view. And there is a particular reason why I'm doing this, especially when you read through the book of Mashali, Proverbs. And by the way, as I do this, let me say that the lexicon is not the final end to studying the scriptures, because the lexicon itself also is deceptive. Because the lexicon was given to you by the same corrupt translators who translated the scriptures. So we have a responsibility to study the language and to become familiar with it, so that we can as Yahuah lead us, that we can see some of the corruption in the midst. But today I'm going to open up the lexicon, and I'm going to read from this perspective. So on your screen you're seeing the Abari, which is not ancient, but the modern, what they call Babylonian box type form of the Abari text. And something I always like to mention to people is that when we're dealing with our language, it's important for us to understand that we do not have anything called vowel points in our language. We do not have anything called vowel points in our language. That was put there by the Jews. Of course, our people developed a simpler form of that vowel pointing system. So it wasn't the Jews who started it. Our people started it, and then the Jews expanded on it. Okay, so our people started it, and the reason why they started with it was to hide the name. Because they made a law, a man-made law that says that the names of Yahuwah should not be uttered, and so they wanted to make sure that nobody said the names, and so they developed this system to change the pronunciation and spelling of the name. And the way they did that was to develop a vowel pointing system to tell you what different sounds to make, because they want to hide the name, because they made the law that says that the name of Yahuwah, the name of the Creator, is ineffable, should not be uttered. Okay, so our people started that, but then the Jews came along and they expanded on it. And their expansion has led to some of the confusion that our people have today when it comes to the language and even the name of the Creator. This expansion, this corrupt expansion, lends to some of the misunderstanding and confusion when it comes to even the name of our Creator today. So I'm not focusing a lot this afternoon on the language, but I just want to point out these things, and also I want to emphasize again that do not think that you can go to the lexicon and there everything will be laid out and spelled out clear without any treachery, without any deceit. Looking at the word here, maraha actually is what marama is what the word is. Treachery or deceit. Okay, now if you look just at this word by itself, you notice you have mam rash mam hey. Mam rash mam hey is how that's spelled, but they say mirma or mirma, however they say it, and that's not what it is. It's marama, and so that's how vowel points can change things. Not mirma, M-I-R-M-A, but marama, M-A-R-A-M-A-H. Okay. All right. Nonetheless, we're not digging into the language today. That's not what we're here for. But I just wanted to highlight a few things as we go. So I'm reading Mashali, Proverbs chapter 15, but I'm reading it from this perspective because as we continue in our study, the way it's translated, if you look at your translation, sometimes it can seem a little confusing because of poor translation. So this way, when we look at it this way, when we come to certain verses, I'm going to just take a minute to look at the Abari word and get some clarity as we go along, okay? All right. And as we go through this, I hope to go to the book of Yakazakal, Ezekiel chapter 22. So I'm hoping to go there as we go through this because they both tied together. We're going to talk a little bit about ourselves here this evening also as we go through this text and how Yahuwah, views us, sees us, and how that affects us even today. A false balance is an abomination to Yahuwah. A false balance is an abomination to Yahuwah, but a just weight is his delight. A false balance is an abomination to Yahuwah, but a just weight is his delight. So family, Yasharal, talk about integrity a little bit earlier. A few weeks back, we looked at Tahlim, no, Proverbs chapter 9, I believe it was, where it talk about wisdom building her building her house, and the house having 7 pillars, and we talked about the pillars of that house. As a matter of fact, maybe I can get that on the screen here for a moment. We talked about the pillars of that house, and we didn't really get into the details. These pillars are not this is somebody's idea of what the 7 pillars are. Different people have different ideas of what the 7 pillars are, but when you consider the entire context of Scripture, I tend to agree with this more. So you have ethics, you have humility, you have instruction, Torah, you have discipline, knowledge, integrity, and honesty. So wisdom's house is built upon these 7 pillars: ethics, humility, Torah, discipline, knowledge, integrity, and honesty. And in whatever we do, and in however we operate, I believe that if we would apply these 7 principles, right? Ethics, humility, Torah, discipline, knowledge, integrity, and honesty, then we will be all right. Okay? So in whatever we do, we need to apply ethics. We need to have humility. We need to be guided by Torah. We need to be disciplined. We need to seek out knowledge. We need to walk in integrity, and we need to walk in honesty. Okay? We need to walk in honesty. Now, so honesty, going back to the scales, honesty. It says that a false balance is an abomination to Yahuah. A false balance is an abomination to Yahuah. You know, I saw in the news here in locally in Philadelphia, somebody just got fired. Somebody in charge of some office over there in Philadelphia got fired because both they and the people that they were supervising, they were paying themselves for overtime that they did not work, and they were also okaying it for people under them. And so they were paying people for time that they did not work, and they were paying them overtime for time that they did not work. A false balance is an abomination to Yahuah. In whatever we do as people of Yahuah, we've got to operate in honesty and integrity and uprightness. Even when we're not being paid what we're worth, we still must walk in honesty and uprightness and integrity. Now that's interesting though, because even when we talk about honesty, there is something for us to understand about that. But that's another matter for another day. What I'm talking about, I don't want to get too deep into this, but what I'm talking about is, for example, when we talk about honesty, because somebody might think that you owe the wicked something to tell them everything. If they come knocking, they come asking you about your brother, your sister. Some people might think that what Yahuah expects for us to do is to tell them, give them everything they want to know about our brother. Give them everything they want to know about our sister. Because we have a responsibility to be honest, and we have a responsibility to be integrous. Is that the case? Right? So you remember when the spies went in to spy out Jericho? And what's her name? Forget her name. But she hid them. Okay? And when the police came knocking, she told the police, I don't see him. Rachab, to the Akut. Rachab told the police, I don't see him. They ain't been this way. But where were they? She had them hidden in her house. You see. So my point is this, that even as we talk about honesty and integrity, what we owe to any and everybody is a balanced scale. Okay, we owe a balanced scale to any and everybody. In other words, whatever you're charging for, you make sure you deliver. Okay, and when you go to work, you make sure that you work for what you're being paid. And there is nothing wrong with even over delivering. Nothing wrong with even over delivering, because ultimately in the end, Yahuah sees, and it is Yahuah that manages the balance. It is Yahuah that manages the balance. It is Yahuah that determines the reward. Ultimately, it is Yahuah that determines the reward. And so, at the end of the day, you're not working. Don't think that it's he or she that is going to determine your reward. Because as we're going to read in the book of Mashali, that though the king might make plans, the heart of the king is in the hand of Yahuah, and he turns it however he sees fit. He turns it however he sees fit. Okay? Now listen, family. I began to tell my testimony a little bit earlier, but I didn't finish my testimony. I told you about all the obstacles that I face at work. And I also tell you that when I go to work, I work to please Yahuah. I work in integrity. And I work to represent my people also. I don't go to work and work selfishly. When I go to work, I go to work thinking about my family. I go to work making sure that I am a good representative of Yahuah. Not that I'm running around preaching to everybody, because I don't, because I realize that they're not interested. So I don't tell them anything about Yahuah. Okay, when I did try, what they did was they mock it. And even for people who look like me that I thought would appreciate it, they started calling me names. They called me the Black KKK and all kinds of stuff they began to call me, just from me sharing basic, simple truths that I thought they would appreciate. So I learned very quickly. Now you do not give good stuff to pigs. Okay? You don't take good stuff and give it to a swine. You do not do it. Okay? You do not take anything of value and put it in front of a swine. Okay? You don't do it. You just don't do it. Okay? You do not give a swine anything good, because the swine knows not what to do with it other than to trample it. Get it in dirty, because the swine loves the mess. The swine loves the mud. He loves the muck. So you do not give anything of value to a swine. We need to learn that. Okay? We need to get that. So I don't go to work thinking that I have a mandate to convert anybody. I don't go to work trying to persuade anybody to serve Yahuah, because they have already shown me that they have no interest. Good, fine. So that's not the reason why I'm here. I'm not here for you. Yahuah has revealed that to me through you. Okay? So that's not my job here. That's not why I'm here. Anyhow, when I go to work, I seek to live in a way above reproach. I seek to honor Yahuah, not by running around telling everybody his name is Yahuah or trying to convert them. But in everything I do, I seek to please Yahuah. You see, because it is he that sees when no one else sees. You see? And so I seek to live with integrity. I seek to live and walk in integrity. And I don't seek to cheat my employer. You see? Because I'm being paid, I seek to do my work to the best of my ability, and even to go beyond what I'm being paid. Okay? Now, family, I shared with you a little bit of my testimony. But you see, because of the way I live my life and the kind of favor that Yahuah has placed upon me, I said to somebody, a former employer of mine that was quite racist, walked into the office one day and he was quite upset. One of the brothers was quite upset. I worked with them for 7 years and I left. They wouldn't give me a promotion when they promoted everybody else and everything. But because of the color of my skin, which I knew, they wouldn't give me a promotion. And so I left. Yahuah opened the door of opportunity and I left. And when I decided to leave and I told them that I was leaving, that's when they wanted to give me a company truck plus $3 more per hour, and I turned it down, so I left. Anyway, Yahuah has it so that since leaving them, he has put me in a position in different companies that they've had to work with, that they've worked with, and they've put me in a position where they have had to consult with me, where they had to come to me about work, you see. And in the process of that, and including the job that I'm currently in right now, I've had interactions with them, and they saw through that, they saw the value that I bring. And so a few months ago, they sent me an email saying that, you know, we're getting older and we're looking for young talent and people of integrity like yourself, you know, to carry on the legacy of our company. Would you be interested in coming back? I responded to them quite quickly. And I said, no, sir. Thank you very much, but I am very much committed to my current employer. One of the reasons why I responded to that so quickly, number one, because I saw their racism outright. I saw their racist ways outright, and I heard it. Because I walked into their office one day and one of the brothers was upset because his daughter had gotten pregnant by some guy from Africa. It was a young man from Africa who came here to America to go to school here in America, but he was a prince of some tribe in Africa, and he came here to go to school. His family sent him to go to school here in America, and in going to college here in America, he met this man's wife. No, he met this man's, my former boss, he met his daughter in school. And they got into a relationship, and the daughter got pregnant by this guy from Africa. And so he was very upset when he found out that she got pregnant by a black guy. And so he was telling another co-worker, a white co-worker, about his daughter going and getting pregnant by a nigger, and I walked in on the conversation in the office. And so when I walked in on the conversation, and I didn't catch the full conversation, but he was so shocked and startled that I walk in. I didn't catch the whole conversation, but he actually finished telling on himself. You see, because if he didn't say anything, I wouldn't have been able to put one and one together to make two, but he just told on himself because he thought I heard the whole thing, but I didn't hear the whole thing. But Yahuah had him reveal himself fully. So knowing who I was dealing with, when Yahuah presented another opportunity, I took it and I left. And this opportunity Yahuah presented was even much better than what I had with them. Anyway, so over the years, Yahuah has used me to reveal something to them about us. And so they sent me an email saying that they would like for me to come back and to help to move carry on the legacy of the company. And so I rejected their offer. But nonetheless, family. So when they sent me that email, and what they said was they asked me to make an offer. I'm in a position with where I'm working now where I don't have insurance. I would have to pay for it out of pocket, and I couldn't afford it. I just can't afford it at this point. And so I saw that as Yahuah opening a door of opportunity for me. And so what I did was, even though I turned them down, I went to my current employer and I said, I let them know I received an offer. I'm not interested in taking the offer. However, I currently cannot afford insurance for my wife and I, and that is important to me. What can you do for me in that regards? He said, well, what's going to be the cost of that? And he asked me, he thought about it, he asked me to get him some prices, and I got him the prices. And so he said he'll get back to me. So when he called me in for the meeting this week, he began to tell me, he wished that he had 10 of me working for him, and among a bunch of other things that he said. He said, I've considered your situation as far as insurance, and what I've decided to do is, I've decided to give you an increase of $8,000 something so that you can afford to buy some insurance for you and your wife. That's giving me an increase of over $4 an hour so that I can purchase insurance. What I'm saying is that's the favor of Yahuah, okay? But favor will come. Favor won't come unless you live above reproach, unless you walk in integrity. You see, favor won't come unless you walk according to Torah. And when you're walking according to the instructions of Yahuah, when you're walking in a way that pleases Yahuah, then even when people are trying to tear you down and when they're trying to destroy you, Yahuah will raise you up. You see, so a false balance is an abomination to Yahuah. So when we go out to work, we need to give it our all. In whatever we do, we need not seek to get over. We need not seek to rob. We need not seek to steal. And even when we're being underpaid, we need to go ahead and work as if we're being fully paid. Because you know what, in the end, I'm not telling you that some people might think that's being a fool. No, that's not being a fool. Because we know where our help comes from. We know where our promotion comes from. We know where our deliverance comes from. And even though the wicked might think he's getting over on you right now, the day of his strength is certainly dwindling to an end. You see, and so even when he don't want to elevate you, if that's the case, Yahuah is going to cause him to elevate you. You see, and so we have a responsibility to walk in integrity. A false balance is an abomination to Yahuah. That's even concerning work or whatever we do. We need to walk in honesty and in integrity. Okay? Whatever we do is an abomination to Yahuah, but a just weight is his delight. A just weight is his delight. You know, family, I'll say something else in this regard. I went to watch the movie Birth of a Nation after Shabbat last week. I went to watch the movie Birth of a Nation. And I appreciate that movie. I greatly appreciate it. It's the first time I've seen the story of Nat Turner told in a right way. Because every documentary I've seen of Nat Turner that would have been made by a white supremacist system portray Nat Turner to be a lunatic, a madman, a blood craving fool, and so on. everything that they've made to talk about Nat Turner, that's how he's portrayed. But I appreciate this movie. Yes, they have not spared a bit as to how they sought to misrepresent him, mischaracterize him. I went to watch the movie and I greatly appreciate the movie. Now there's a reason why I bring up the movie, the Nat Turner movie. Now I say to you, family, and you've heard me say this here before, that the Bible is not the scriptures. The Bible is a corrupted translation of the scriptures. And even the letters have been corrupted. And what the movie, The Birth of a Nation, shows, because what they were doing was they did it with Nat Turner and they did it with others also. But what they were doing with Nat Turner, they would use him to preach their corrupted verses to the slaves. Servants, obey your masters, for this is right. Be a good slave, you know. Don't do this. Don't have no thought of uprising. None of that stuff. Just be a good slave, and then you're gonna die, and you're gonna get your reward in heaven. That's what they would use Nat Turner to preach to the slaves. Okay. Yes, he was a Christian preacher. And but what happened with Nat Turner was Nat Turner had a moment of awakening. Okay. He snapped out of the Christianity and he realized that these people were manipulating the scriptures. You see, because he began to see the other parts of the scripture that talk about the people of Yahuah trotting down their oppressor. You see, and so he began to show them all the places where it talk about where it says that if you're a servant of and of course they don't use Yahuah in the movie, they don't use the name Yahuah in the movie, but if you're a servant, then this is your heritage. This is what it will be. So why is it that you're only telling us about this? You see, but here's my point why I brought up the movie. Because what I'm saying to you is, I'm not saying that as a servant of Yahuah, then you've got to be a fool for the wicked. You see? And so I'm not telling you that if they're paying you 2 pennies that you ought to go and work like they're paying you $50,000. You see? And you kill yourself and then have no substance left. That's not what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying is walking in integrity and in wisdom. You see? And giving a just weight. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about dumbing anybody down, because I believe in justice. I believe in right, and I believe in wrong. I believe there's wrong, and I believe that there's right. I believe and I know that there is injustice and that there needs to be justice. You see, I believe in all this. But at the same time, when you're being treated unjustly, you don't allow the wicked to continue to keep you down because of your response, the way you respond to the injustice. You see, I've been in positions where I've had to hire people, and I'd have to hire people from what you call temp agencies. And when you're hiring people from temp agencies, where the area that I was running the project, when you hire people from the temp agencies, 98% of the people that come are black. This is minimum wage. They're paying them people minimum wage through the temp agency. 98% of the people you get are black. And these guys would come in, and I'm the one that's signing, at the end of the day, I'm the one that's signing their paperwork for them to get paid. And they're telling me from the door what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. And then what I find in many cases, for the most part, a lot of times I spend my day running around trying to figure out where they're hiding at. You see? And so my point in that is that sometimes people allow, because there is injustice, they decide, well, you know what, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to get over. I'm going to do everything I can to get over, but I'm not doing anything. And that's not good either. Because I know what it is to work for minimum wage. And even while I was working for minimum wage, I didn't work like I was working for minimum wage. And because I didn't work like I was working for minimum wage, you know what happened? Yahuah saw fit to take me out of that. You see. So I'm saying a couple things here. I'm not telling people to be foolish. But at the same time, simply because you're currently being oppressed, there is a time for everything under the sun. You see? And there's a time for you to take the whipping and lick your wounds. And there's a time for you to rise up. You see? But wisdom must be our guide. Okay? We must be wise. A false balance is an abomination to Yahuah. A false balance is an abomination to Yahuah. But just weight is his delight. A false balance is an abomination to Yahuah, but just weight is his delight. Now, can you imagine you're doing business with somebody or working for somebody and they're not treating you fairly, but you're giving your best? What's going to happen? Yahuah says a false balance is an abomination to him. So who is in trouble? The one that's not paying you right is in trouble. So you don't worry about how this thing is going to balance out, because Yahuah is going to make sure that the wicked gets his reward in the same way that he's going to make sure that the just gets his reward. So a false balance is an abomination to Yahuah, but a just weight is his delight. So when you give your part, then Yahuah delights in you. And if Yahuah delights in you, it means then that his favor will be on you. Verse 2, when pride comes, then comes dishonor, but with the humble is wisdom. When pride comes, then comes dishonor. That's where you are humbled. When pride rises up, when you raise yourself up in pride, now there's only one option. Because you have lifted yourself up, now you've not left any opportunity for anybody to raise you up. So the only other option left now is down. You see. So when pride comes, then comes dishonor. But with the humble is wisdom. Okay? Verse 3. I think that explains itself. The integrity of the upright will guide them. The integrity of the upright will guide them. But the crookedness of the treacherous will destroy them. The integrity of the upright will guide them. But the crookedness of the treacherous will destroy them. The integrity of the upright will guide them. When you walk in integrity, when you are upright and you walk in integrity, that integrity will become your propeller. It will become the thing. Your integrity will propel you, you see, to higher heights. You see, the integrity of the upright will guide them. It will determine their altitude, you see. Because of your integrity, then Yahuah is then able to raise you up. But if you're crooked, there is no other way to go but down. So the integrity of the upright will guide them. It will determine their altitude. It will determine their attitude. Attitude, when I say attitude, I'm speaking about in a directional sense. It will determine whether you are going up or you're going down. The integrity of the upright. Of course, if you're upright, then there's only one direction to go, and that's up. You see. So but if you fail to walk in integrity, then the attitude will be downward. Okay? So the integrity of the upright will guide them, but the crookedness of the treacherous will destroy them. So we don't have to You know, the reality is, family, the fact of the matter is, when you think about the wicked, when you think about the treacherous, sometimes in our, let me speak for me. Sometimes when I look at the wicked and see all the things that they get away with, or it seems as if they're getting away with because justice can seem to take so long to catch up with them, sometimes I become overwhelmed. They're like, oh man, it's taking too long for me to see their downfall. But the reality is, the fact of the matter is, we can take comfort knowing that when a person acts treacherously, this thing is certain, that they will meet their destruction. You see? They will meet their destruction. We can take comfort in that. Even when we see the wicked and they're railing and they're pious and they're strong and it looks as if they're not fading, we can take comfort in knowing that the treachery of the wicked will be their destruction. That their treachery will bring them to destruction. You see. Now he says, riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. Riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. Now let me take some time to talk about riches here for a second. And we're going to come back to riches because the text is going to talk some more about riches. But you know, in Christianity, there are two, and outside of Christianity, but there are two different teachings. There are two different teachings when it comes to there are two different teachings when it comes to riches and wealth in Christianity and outside of Christianity. So you could say among people there are two different teachings when it comes to riches or wealth. Okay? There's one belief system that believes that you must do all you can to be poor. Okay? There's one belief system that teaches that you must do all that you can to be poor, and in by so doing, you will inherit eternal life. Okay? I'm talking about beliefs out there now. So in Christianity and outside of Christianity, there is a belief system. There's a system of belief that says that you must do all that you can to be poor, and in so doing you will inherit eternal life. And you know what, family? They have taught it to our people also. A lot of our people think that to be wealthy or to even have a desire to be wealthy is a crime. It's a sin, so to speak. You see. So, yes. So they teach that, and so our people, many of our people feel like what they should do is sit and do nothing, sit and try nothing. Because after all, it's a sin to even work to be fruitful. You see. Bear with me just for a second, family. Give me just a quick second, if you would, please. Let me give me 1 second. I'm going to put some music on for 1 second. Bear with me just for a second, okay? I'm sorry. Give me just a second here, Mashbaka. Bear with me just for a second. Okay, here, give me 1 second.
days are bright. We are amazed in the light of the stars. It's all proclaiming who you are. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. Again for me. Now you are sitting on your heavenly throne. Soon we will be coming home. You're beautiful.
Welcome back, family, and I'm sorry for the interruption. Okay, we're gonna get back to Masha Lee here, Proverbs chapter 11, and so now we're in verse 4, and let me make sure that I'm sharing the screen for the family on YouTube or on Facebook. Why? Okay, here we go. For the family on YouTube or on Facebook, let me get the screen back. Let me make sure that I'm sharing the screen. Okay, so Masha Lee chapter 11 now in verse 4, Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 4. We're just at the beginning here of this text, but nonetheless, let's continue. So we're talking about riches. So there is this system of belief. I talked about two systems of belief out there. One where the monk system, for the lack of a better term, let me title it that, the monk system, right? The monk system. That's where people think that the more they can impoverish themselves, then the better they will be in the so-called afterlife. There is that system. What's interesting about that is that all of these, and then you have the other system, which is the prosperity doctrine system. And that is where they prey on people Both of these came out of Christianity. So the church is known for telling people that you need to be poor and give us everything that you have. You see. So, and then they pretend as if they're poor, but in reality they are not poor. The Catholic Church, that's what they did. They would pretend as if they're poor, but in reality they are not poor. You see, and then they would have people give them their wealth. You see. So the people would give all their wealth to the church, and then they would be impoverished, and the poor and the church would be wealthy. Not only, now it's important to note that the church did not get all its wealth just from the pew members giving them everything they have. No, the church was very much a part of the system of pillaging African nations. That's how the church really got wealthy, by pillaging African nations, by going into Africa, killing people, and taking the wealth. You see, that's how the churches got wealthy. You see, just like the governments of the European nations, because there was no wealth in Europe. That's why people were traveling. That's why they launched out, because there was no wealth in Europe. You see, but even though there were no wealth in Europe, Europe became one of the most wealthy places. And when I say Europe, I speak also of the land that we currently live in. You see, so all of the wealth comes from one place. You see, so what they would do is, but the church, what they would do is they would convince people that it's a sin for you to have anything. Give us everything that you have, and you're going to experience your reward in the afterlife. You see, but then out of Christianity also came the prosperity doctrine. And that doctrine again is basically saying the same thing, but with manipulation. It's telling the people to give us everything you have, but after you've given us everything you have, you're going to experience heaven in the now. Give us everything you have, and then you're going to get a return of 100-fold, and whatever many folds, 1,000-fold, and however many folds. You see, and that again also is preying on the people. So there is this twisted understanding of wealth and riches that can be attributed to the manipulating doctrines of Christianity. You see, now it says, so riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. And so we want to put this in its right perspective. What Yahuah is saying, Yahuah is not saying that, okay, riches doesn't profit in the day of wrath, therefore I should hate riches, I should hate wealth, I should hate having anything, and just live like whatever monk, you see. Just have nothing more than the clothes on my back. No, that's not what that's saying. And you see, the upright does not have to worry about the day of wrath. The upright never has to worry about the day of wrath. Is that right? Isn't that right, family? Isn't it so that if one lives upright, now let me put that in its proper perspective also, because we are a people living in captivity. We are not a people living in our land. Okay, and so as a result of living in captivity, then we also experience the diseases of Matzrayim. But what Yahuah promised to Yasharal is that when I deliver you out of Matzrayim, if you will continue to live according to my word, then I will not bring any of the diseases of Matzrayim upon you. Okay? And when as a people, if we're living in accordance with the word of Yahuah, we will never have to worry about the day of wrath. Yahuah protects his people in the day of wrath. Those who have to worry about the day of wrath is not the set apart, is not those who are walking in obedience. Those who have to worry about the day of wrath are those who are wicked, not the set apart. You see, Yahuah protects those who are walking in obedience in the day of wrath. But to the foolish person, to the wrong, to the wicked, riches, there is no place for riches in the day of wrath. You see, because it's to the wrong that wrath comes. Okay? And so that's the person whose riches will do him no good in the day of wrath. There is no day of wrath for the upright. Okay? So we have to put that in its right perspective, because people read that and they say, see, in the day of wrath, all of your wealth won't do you no good no way. So why even have any? No, that's not what Yahuwah's word says. The day of wrath is not for the upright. The day of wrath is for the wicked. The day of wrath is for the disobedient. And so the upright never has to worry about the day of wrath if they remain upright. Wrath comes when you go away from the instructions of Yahuwah. As the scriptures tells us, the wages of sin is death. The wages of transgression is death. You see. And so, but the gift of Yahuwah is life everlasting. You see. Praise Father Akut. So, there's a misunderstanding of that. When people read it, they misunderstand. But we need to understand that. We need to get it. You see. All right? So, let's go on to the next one. Now, verse 5. The righteousness of the blameless will smooth his way. The set-apartness of the blameless. The righteousness, the integrity, the righteousness of the man of integrity will smooth his way. The righteousness, the set-apartness of that one who walks in integrity will smooth his way. The righteousness of the blameless will smooth his way. But the wicked will fall by his own wickedness. You hear that? That's simply a continuation of what we just talked about. If you're living set apart, if you're living upright, then you don't have to worry about chaos coming. You don't have to worry about a day of wrath coming to you. And family, even as people in Yahuwah, when we study the scriptures, what we find is that even when the day of wrath is visited upon the wicked, that Yahuwah protects and preserves those who are his, even in the midst of wrath being poured upon the wicked. You see. And so it is important for us to recognize the difference. Because when we recognize this, then we don't have to... Listen, when I was in church, I see people in church all day long running around worried about what they call the, which there ain't no, what they call it again? The rapture? Ain't no rapture. The kind of, that doctrine that they preach is a false doctrine. But I don't know how many people here were in church and to what extent you were in church. I know a lot of us were, but I don't know what in the denomination that you're in, what they taught about the rapture. But you know, in church, people are scared about this so-called rapture. You know, this last day rapture. I mean, people are very fearful of this last day rapture, right? I mean, it's a scary thing, you see. Even for those who believe that they're going to be caught up in the rapture, somehow there is a kind of scary that goes along with it. Now, that don't make any sense. Because you see, family, the fact of the matter is that in the day of wrath, those who are set apart unto Yahuwah, what does that mean? Set apart unto Yahuwah. To be set apart unto Yahuah is to be set apart unto Yahuah. If you're set apart unto Yahuah, it means then that nothing will touch you, and better not no one touch you, because you are Yahuah set apart. And so in the day of wrath, Yahuah covers you. You see, the righteousness of the blameless will smooth his way. The righteousness of the blameless will smooth his way. The set apartness of the blameless will smooth his way. And that's true in every situation. If we would continue to live set apart unto Yahuah in all that we do, it will smooth our way. You see, it will smooth our way. It will make our lives much easier. Am I saying that as a people in captivity you won't have trouble? No, that's not what I'm saying. Because we're still a people in captivity. So we'll have difficulties and hardships. But you know what? Yahuah will see us through it when we are committed to walking according to his way. When we are committed to Yahuah, Yahuah is also committed to us. He's more committed to us than we are to him. So the righteousness of the blameless will smooth his way, but the wicked went too far, will fall by his own wickedness. The wicked will fall by his own wickedness. Here again, family, is more reassurance for us. When we look at the deeds of the wicked, when we look at the acts of the wicked, we can be assured and reassured that the wicked will fall by his own wickedness. So if the wicked had any sense at all, he would scale back on his wickedness, because the extent to which he is wicked is to the extent to which he will be destroyed. He will be cut down by his own wickedness. You see. Tuda Aki, Ayub chapter 18 and verse 5. Aki Franklin just posted, "Indeed, the light of the wrong goes out, and the flame of his fire does not shine." We go to verse 5. And family, we have a lot more to cover. I believe the best is yet to come as we study this passage. The righteousness of the upright will deliver. The righteousness of the upright will deliver them. The righteousness of the upright will deliver them. But the treacherous will be caught by their own greed. I want you to begin thinking of this not only from a personal perspective, but also from a national perspective. Okay? And we can think of it from a national perspective as it relates to Yashar, and we can think of it from a national perspective as it relates to our oppressors. Okay? Now, I'm going to, in a moment here, I'm going to take a further look at it from a national perspective as it relates to Yashar by going to the book of Yakazakal, the book of Ezekiel. Okay? But so as we go through this, I want you to begin to think of it not just from a personal perspective. In other words, I don't want you to excuse either. I want you to take it personally. I want you to think of it from a personal perspective. I want you to think of it from an individual perspective, but I also want you to think of it from a national perspective. What I'm saying is, when I talk about a national perspective, what I'm making reference to is, consider how, when we behave in these ways as a nation, how it affects us as a nation. Because in the same way it affects us as individuals, when we behave in this way nationally, when we behave in this way as a nation, it also affects us as a nation. So if we are upright as a nation, then we receive the rewards of uprightness as a nation, not just as individuals, but as a nation also. If we are crooked as a nation, then we receive destruction as a nation. The righteousness of the upright will deliver them. So if the nation of Yasharal walks uprightly, his righteousness will deliver him. Or her, whichever we choose to refer to Yasharal as, right? But the treacherous will be caught. The treacherous will be caught. That applies to us as a people, that applies to us as individuals, that applies to us as a nation, and it also applies to the wicked. You see, it also applies to the wicked. Okay? Now let's go to the next verse. This one is now verse 6, I believe. Verse 7. Verse 7. The wicked. When a wicked, Rasha, criminal, right? When a wicked man dies, his expectation will perish. When a wicked man dies, his expectation will perish, and the hope of strong men perishes. When a wicked man dies, his expectation will perish. This is something that I point out from time to time. Look at the wicked in the scriptures. Look at the disobedient in the scriptures. Family, by the way, do you realize that it is wicked? That if you lack belief, you are wicked. If we lack belief, we are wicked. That's why Yahuah says, when he comes, will there be any belief left in the earth? Will there be anyone left in the earth believing? You see. So, to lack belief is to be wicked. You see? To lack belief is to be wicked. Now, so remember the 12 spies that were sent to spy out the land? And when they came back, this was on the second spying mission. When they came back, 10 of them brought back a negative report. Right? Only 2 brought back a good report. Caleb and Yahusha, the son of Nun, the Ban of Nun. 2 brought back a good report. 10 brought back a negative report. The 10 that brought back the negative report, yes, they were popular in life. They were popular. The 2 who brought back a positive report were unpopular. Family, I work in an environment where, because I choose to do the right thing, I am more so the unpopular guy. When you choose to go against the crowd and to stand for right, what's right, you will find that you're unpopular. And those who stand with the wrong is popular. But here's the thing. The wrong will not last always. The wrong springs up like the green grass in the morning, but by evening it withers. It's gathered up and thrown into the fire and is forgotten. And so it says here that when a wicked man dies, his expectation will perish. Yes, the wicked might be popular in life, but pretty soon he will be no more popular. You see? Now, as long as the friends of the wicked remain alive, they're going to keep the name of the wicked alive. But what happens when the friends of the wicked begin to die out? What happens now when those who used to promote Columbus as being this great big hero, you know, those the ones that were all for him, while they were alive, Columbus remained a big superhero. But what is happening? They're dying out. And what's happening now? Columbus ain't so popular no more. People are turning away from Columbus. You see? So, pretty soon Columbus will be forgotten. And guess what? It's not just Columbus. It's not just Columbus that will be forgotten. All of the wicked will be forgotten. You see? All the wicked will be forgotten. Listen, a few years ago when I began on Facebook to even share stuff about Christopher Columbus, public schools where I live was still closed for Columbus Day. Okay? Today, many of them don't recognize Columbus Day. There's still some, but many don't recognize Columbus Day anymore. You see, the lies are falling like dominoes, and the wicked will be forgotten. So even though they might be celebrated now, even in death, when their promoters, when the wicked like themselves, when they die off, they are going to be forgotten. But you know who will never be forgotten? The just will never be forgotten. When a wicked man dies, his expectation will perish, and the hope of strong men perishes. You see? The hope of strong men perishes. And this is something else that we need to understand, that simply because somebody is flourishing, you know, in the nation that we live, it is believed that the reason why this nation and even the European nations is as great and as strong as they are is because they are so-called blessed. Okay? That they're doing what's right and they're blessed. That's the belief for many people. But what foolish people do not realize is that not everybody that flourishes because of favor. Not everybody who flourish because of favor. Not everybody who flourish because they're doing right. Not everybody who flourish because they're just. Some people flourish because of just sheer wickedness and brute force. They flourish because they are strong. And what drives them is their wicked hearts. So because they have no conscience, they don't have a problem with just trampling people down and getting whatever they want to have by all means necessary. And so what you will find is, for a time, they'll flourish. But they're not flourishing because they're smart. They're not flourishing because they're favored. They flourish because they're wicked. And in time, the strong man and his wickedness will perish and will be forgotten. Okay? Now, we go to chapter verse 8. The righteous, the set apart, the Zaddik, is delivered from trouble, but the wicked takes his place. You hear that now? This is an interesting one. The righteous is delivered from trouble, but the wicked takes his place. That's just amazing to me. The righteous is delivered from trouble, but the wicked takes his place. You see, family, that's the way it is, and that's the way it will be. The righteous is delivered from trouble, but the wicked takes his place. So, family, we have been in trouble. We have been in trouble because we disobeyed Yahuah. But when we awaken to Yahuah, and we awaken to his instructions, and we begin to walk according to his instructions, we will be delivered from trouble. But what happens after we are delivered from the wicked? Trouble is the wicked. After we have been delivered from the wicked is going to take our place. After we have been delivered from the wicked is going to take our place. You know, that's something that a lot of people have a hard time coming to terms with. And the movie, in the movie Birth of a Nation, that's one of the things that Nat Turner realized. He realized that it is written that the wicked is going to take our place. So what they're doing to us, he realized the scripture says will be done to them. A lot of our people, having been bamboozled, say, "Oh no, that's not according to the word." It's written in the word. Yes, they're in really, really big trouble, Akut. Because when the set apart is delivered from trouble, the wicked takes the place of the set apart in trouble. They're in big trouble. Listen, you know something that amazed me after the 2008, no he didn't. After the 2008, the 2008, and he did not just go around just killing white people. That's not what he did. He only targeted those who wickedly oppressed his people. Yes, he did, you see. Now, where was I at? I forgot. There was a point that I was going to make and I forgot it. I was thinking about that for a second. So the righteous is delivered from trouble, but the wicked takes his place. Okay? The wicked takes his place. Yes, indeed. Vengeance is mine, says Yahuah. Yes, indeed. You see? Now, and Yahuwah's method of vengeance. Because what happens to people... Oh, yes, in 2008. Tada, Akut. What amazed me in 2008 when the economy collapsed was how many people, at least on the eastern side of America, and I even saw in California, I saw people who were talking about making budgets where, you know, now their food, their grocery shopping included oodles and noodles and some other things. And I remember one instance where a guy jumped out of a window and took his life or something like that, because he couldn't cope with having to live in a way that he wasn't accustomed to living. So what happens to the wicked is when the tables are turned, it's not just... It's like compounded. What they feel is compounded because they're not accustomed to living in poverty. They're not accustomed to being beneath. You see? Yes, and suicide left to right. They're not accustomed to not being on top. I heard a guy on the radio yesterday, they were talking to him, a few Donald Trump supporters, and they said that America is going in the wrong direction. They were saying several of them. So the reporter asked him, "Could you give an example of that?" And it took them a minute to come up with anything. And then finally one of them said, and everybody jumped on the bandwagon. So one of them said, "Yeah, here's a real example." He said, "Now the president shouldn't be talking about some athlete, some football player. He should be talking about the issues of our country, but instead he's up there talking about Colin Kaepernick have a right to protest if he so chooses." He said that now that's a big issue with our country. He says, "As a white man, I feel as if my views no longer matter," he says. And he is quite upset at that. Feel as if his views no longer matters. You see? He feels as if he is being forced to silence the way that he thinks. Now the problem is the way that he thinks. Because what's happening is people are now telling him it's not okay to run around calling people the N-word and to acting under the mindset of white supremacy. And now he is quite distraught by that. You see? Yeah. He is quite concerned by that. But you see, he is so accustomed to living his life on the top that the idea of not continuing to live that way puts fear in him. You see? So when people are accustomed to privilege, the thought of losing privilege in itself is torture. When people are accustomed to living as millionaires, when you were born into wealth and you've only lived a privileged life, having to now deal with the reality of living with nothing in itself is torture. So it's not just the reality of dealing with having nothing. It's also the thoughts and the torture that come with it when one who have been the ruler for so long now find themselves being ruled. You see? And that's the problem. The righteous is delivered from trouble, but the wicked takes his place. And that's just what the scriptures tells us. That's what the scriptures tells us. Go to the book of Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 11, and see what it says will happen to those who have oppressed the people of Yasharal. Go to Yeshayahu chapter 66, chapter 60, and see what it says will happen to those who have oppressed Yasharal. It's not a pretty sight. You see? It's not a pretty sight. Yep. They can't live. And so they commit suicide. Left and right. You see? Okay, verse 8. With his mouth, the disobedient man, not godless. There is no thing such as godless. It's a made-up word. Even the word that is used, the word is shanaf. Okay? And it means corrupt, profane, disobedient. Okay? Shanaf. So with his mouth, the disobedient man, the corrupt man, the profane man destroys his neighbor. But through knowledge, the righteous will be delivered. So with his mouth, the disobedient, the profane, the corrupt man destroys his neighbor. But through knowledge, the righteous will be delivered. So with his mouth. So a corrupt man, a corrupt person thrives on destroying their neighbor with their mouth. lying against their neighbor, gossiping against their neighbor. With his mouth, the corrupt, the disobedient destroys his neighbor. The mouth, you see, family, is a very powerful weapon. The mouth is a very powerful weapon. They have a saying that goes, stick and stones may break your bone, but words will never hurt you. And that is just not true. The tongue, a very dangerous weapon. You see? When you read in the book of Yahuah, it compares it to the rudder that steers a big ship. Consider a big ship, ocean liner. Huge. But yet the thing that steers it is a small rudder. Yahuah compares the tongue to that rudder. As small as it is, it directs the entire body, and not just the body that it's a part of, but it can affect a whole lot of people. It can affect an entire nation. It can affect nations. It can start world wars. You have a so-called world leader. If you have a politician, a president of a nation, speaking foolishly, say the wrong thing, he can get the entire world enveloped in conflict. One man with a foolish tongue. His name is Yahuah, Aki, Yahuah. You see, Aki just posted from Ayub, chapter 15 and verse 5, for your crookedness teaches your mouth what to say, and you choose the tongue of the crafty. For your crookedness teaches your mouth what to say, and you choose the tongue of the crafty, your crookedness. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You see? The heart and the tongue, they go hand in hand. Because what's hidden in the heart is revealed by the tongue. But through knowledge, the righteous will be delivered. Through knowledge, the righteous will be delivered. I'm going to take a moment here before I go any further, because I got beyond the verses that I wanted to. Because you see, especially in verse 6, and if I should read from you will see that one of the things, and I mentioned it earlier, about our actions and how they can affect us as a nation, right? You know what? I'm going to continue to read, and then if time allow, I'll read some of that. But let me continue here in verse 9. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices. And when the wicked perish, there is joyful shouting. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices. And when the wicked perish, there is joyful shouting. The barakut of the upright city. By the barakut of the upright, a city is exalted. But by the mouth of the wicked, it is torn down. By the barakut of the upright, a city is exalted, but by the mouth of the wicked, it is torn down. The power of the tongue. The power of the tongue to build and to destroy, because in the same way that the tongue can be used as an instrument of destruction, It can also be used as an instrument of building. Okay? He who despises his neighbor lacks sense, but a man of understanding keeps silent. Okay? And what this is talking about now, he who despises his neighbor lacks sense. Now it's interesting, the contrast. But a man of understanding keeps silent. So what is this really saying? There is really some misunderstanding or lack of clarity from the way that it's translated. He who despises his neighbor lacks sense. Okay? He who despises his neighbor lacks sense. What it's saying is, if you hate your neighbor for no reason, family, you've heard me say that people who are racist people are truly mentally retarded. Well, here it is. Racist people are significantly and severely mentally retarded. When you're going to hate somebody for no reason, just based on an idea that's not even real, because I say an idea that's not even real from the perspective of even talking about race. If you're going to say that you hate somebody because of their race, you're absolutely stupid. Because race don't even exist. Race, in the sense that you perceive it or you think about it, don't exist. Because until it was invented by another foolish person like yourself who hates somebody because of their skin color, there was not such a thing as race. You see, he that is void of wisdom despises his neighbor, but a man of understanding holds his peace. He that despises his neighbor lacks sense. But a man of understanding lives in shalom. You see. So, when you go hate your neighbor for no reason, there is something wrong with you. Whether it be from the perspective of race or for any other reason. Because you have people who hate their neighbors not because of race. Because your neighbor might look like you, but for no reason you despise your neighbor. That makes no sense. There is something wrong with you. You see. So he who despises his neighbor lacks sense. But a man of understanding, he don't go starting no trouble. That's basically what that's saying. A man of understanding don't go starting unnecessary trouble. He who goes about as a talebearer reveals secrets. But he who is trustworthy conceals a matter. So a talebearer, somebody who can control the tongue again. Somebody who just like to tell other people's business. And not only that, you see, when you like to talk, the scripture says that you're going to end up lying when you talk too much. You're going to say the wrong thing. And so, he who goes about as a talebearer reveals secrets. But he who is trustworthy conceals a matter. I believe that speaks for itself, right? Where there is no guidance, the people fall. But abundance of counselors, in abundance of counselors, there is victory. You see, in whatever we do, we need to seek counsel. In whatever we do, family. We can't convince ourselves that we have it together so well that we don't need to consult with anybody. In whatever we do, it is wise for us to seek counsel. You see? In whatever we do, it is wise for us to seek counsel. Because the fact of the matter is, if we think that we have it figured out all to ourselves, we will miss important details, because there might be something that somebody else will think about that you didn't think about thinking about. So in whatever we do, it is good to seek out counsel. And that's in anything that we do. If you're going to start a business, if you're looking to make a decision about your children, if you're looking to make life decisions about life choices in life, it is important to seek counsel. In the multitude of counselors, there is victory. You would seek out counsel. Then you will be equipped to make wise decisions. Right? And so we don't simply lean on our own understanding. You know, in a part of seeking Yahuah and seeking Yahuah's direction is talking to our brothers and sisters. As part of seeking Yahuah for direction is talking to our brothers and sisters. Because there's something that we have to understand about the way Yahuah works. Yahuah works through people. Yahuah works through people. And so as we seek guidance from Yahuah, it is also good for us to talk to our family, to our brothers and sisters in Yahuah. Because Yahuah works through people. Okay? He works through people also. Now, verse 14. He who is a guarantor, that's me, for a stranger. I did it for a family member. He who is a, what you call a, what's the other word I'm looking for? Co-signer for a stranger will surely suffer. I did it for a family member, and I suffer from it as a result of it. So he who is a co-signer will surely suffer for it, but he who hates being a guarantor is secure. You know, family, I had a situation where I was asked by a family member to co-sign on a mortgage. And even though at the time I was counseled not to do so, I was thinking about the family member, and really looking back, it wasn't as, the situation wasn't as desperate. It was a matter of them making a decision to work out what they needed to work out and do what they needed to do. But instead, I became an enabler to dysfunction, and it ended up hurting me because I co-signed on a mortgage. Not only that, family, so we look at it from the perspective of literally co-signing, but we also have to think about and ask ourselves concerning people's behavior, people's thought, people's words, people's attitude. What are we co-signing? When somebody come to you with nonsense, are you going to co-sign it? Are you going to be a guarantor for nonsense? Or are you going to say, you know what, nah, I'm not co-signing that. Or even though you know that what they're bringing you is folly, are you just going to go along with it? It says, he who is a guarantor for a stranger will surely suffer for it. But he who hates being a guarantor, who hates being a co-signer, is secure. So even as we co-sign, don't just think about it from the perspective of signing a document, becoming a financial guarantor for somebody, but also from the perspective of conversations and relationships. What are you co-signing? All right? What am I co-signing? Am I agreeing where I should disagree? Just to get along. Am I agreeing just to get along where I should disagree? Am I co-signing by being silent when I should really speak up? And am I co-signing by speaking up when I should be silent? Praise Father Aki. Praise Yahuah. In verse 16, favor. That's where they say gracious. The word is kan. Comes from kanan, favor. Okay? Favor. A favored woman attains honor. A favored woman attains honor. And ruthless men attain riches. That's what I was talking about earlier. Simply because you see somebody prospering, don't mean they're smart. Don't mean they're wise. In many cases, it just means they're wicked, ruthless. You see. Some people, because they see somebody prospering, they think they're smart. They're not smart. They're just wicked. Simply because somebody might be a millionaire or a billionaire, don't make them smart. They're just ruthless. They're wicked. There is nothing they will not do. There is nothing they will not do to get ahead. They're not smart. They're just ruthless, wicked. You see. So, a woman favored attains honor, and ruthless men attain riches. Is that something to aspire for? To be a ruthless man so I can attain riches? Not at all. There is a way to attain riches, but why do you want to attain riches to begin with? Verse 17, the merciful or the kind man does himself good, but the cruel man does himself harm. The kind man does himself good, but the cruel man does himself harm. You see, again, fret not yourself because of evildoers. Because even though they might seem like they're on top right now, and you're kind and you can't seem to be getting nowhere, don't worry. You're doing yourself good by being kind. But the wicked does himself harm. The ruthless man does himself harm. The wicked earns deceptive wages. The wicked earns deceptive wages. That's why they're rich, many of them. But he who sows righteousness gets a true reward. He who sows righteousness gets a true reward. He who is steadfast in righteousness and set apartness will attain to life. He who is steadfast in set apartness will attain to life, and he who pursues evil will bring about his own death. He who pursues evil will bring about his own death. The perverse in heart are an abomination to Yahuah. The perverse in heart are an abomination to Yahuah, but the blameless in their walk are his delight. The perverse in heart are an abomination to Yahuah, but the blameless are his but the blameless in their walk are his delight. Verse 21. I think there are 24 verses. Assuredly the evil man will not go unpunished. Assuredly the evil man will not go unpunished, but the descendants of the righteous will be delivered. The descendants of the righteous will be delivered. So the evil man will not go unpunished, but even the descendants of the evil man will be punished. The descendants of the righteous will be delivered. As a ring of gold in a swine's snout, so is a woman of beauty who lacks discretion. That's an interesting picture painted there. As a ring of gold in a swine's snout, so is a beautiful woman who lacks discretion. As a ring of gold in a swine's snout, so is a beautiful woman who lacks discretion. You know what happens? You know what happens when you make the mistake of putting a gold ring in a swine's snout? When you make the mistake of putting a gold ring in a swine's snout, it's the biggest mistake that you can make. Gold is a thing of value, right? You will never see it again. So what does the swine do? The swine uses his snout to root the mud, to root dirt. That's what he does. He uses his snout to root dirt, right? To root the mud. So in the process, here it is, you put something of value in his snout. As he's rooting in dirt, because he ain't gonna care nothing about that thing of value that's in his snout. What he cares about is wallowing in the mess. So as he is rooting in the dirt, what's gonna happen to that gold ring that was placed in his snout? That thing of value. It's gonna dislodge. And it's gonna be lost, because the swine values the muck more than he values that gold ring that was placed in his snout. You see? Just another way of saying, do not cast your pearls among swines. You see? But amazingly, it compares a beautiful woman, even a woman of beauty, to a swine with a gold ring in its snout. You see, beauty is not all there is to it. Beauty is not all there is to it. A foolish man may be hung up and may get hung up, or a foolish woman may get hung up and caught up in outer beauty. You see? But that is a big mistake, because beauty is not all there is to a person. As a matter of fact, the scriptures tells us that beauty is fleeting. And so if you're going to get with somebody, if you're going to take a wife or a husband based on just simply their appearance, then that's a big mistake, because there's going to come a time when that's going to get old. You see? And it doesn't matter how beautiful a person is, when they're foolish, their foolishness covers their beauty, hides their beauty. Their folly hides their beauty. You see? And so they become unattractive because of their folly, because of their foulness or whatever it might be. They become unattractive. And so Yahuah compares a beautiful woman who lacks discretion. And that's the other thing. We need to have discretion. We need to have discretion in all things. Not just women, but men. We need to have discretion in all things. What is discretion? The ability to judge soundly. The ability to make wise decisions. The ability to act wisely. You see, you gotta have discretion, man and woman. You must have discretion. And when you have discretion, then simply because you may have the ability to do something, or maybe even free to do something, if you have discretion, you will know that even though you might have that ability, discretion will tell you this ain't the right time. Your timing is off. Or you won't even get into a matter of discretion will speak to you. Discretion will cause you to weigh your words. Know when to say, what to say, how to say. Discretion will cause you to know how to act. But when you lack discretion, you end up doing things and saying things that end up bringing harm to yourself and to others around you. Unnecessarily. So it likens the person who lacks discretion as putting a thing of value, a gold ring, in the nose of a swine. You see? They are of no value. The desire of the righteous is only good, but expectation of the wicked is wrath. The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. So the wicked have nothing to look forward to but wrath. The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation, the only thing that the wicked has to look forward to is wrath. The wicked is living out his rewards right now, and the only thing that he have coming is wrath. There is one who scatters and yet increases all the more. And there is one who withholds what is justly due, and yet it results only in want. This is talking about the person who find it difficult to give. Hold on to everything. And then the person who gives freely and willingly. The one who holds on to everything somehow end up having nothing, and yet there is one who gives freely and always has. The one who scatters and yet increases all the more. Right? When you give willingly, when you give cheerfully, then the more likely it is that you will be favored, right? That's what Yahuah's words say. I know that people play on these things. In the book of Ecclesiastes, I believe chapter 11, it says, "Cast your bread upon the waters, and you will find it after many days." You see? The one who scatters. Somehow find that he increases all the more, but there is one who withholds what is justly due. That's where what is justly due. You know, and somebody have a need and they might come to you and you have the ability to do it, but you turn them away. It was a just due, but that one refused. And there is one who withholds what is justly due, and yet it results only in want. So even they're so busy holding tight to what they have that they have no room to gain what is better, right? That was the end of it, 24 verses. Now, I want to go back here real quick, and we're running out of time, so I'm not going to take a lot more time. I do want to read something as I reflected on this text, family. I'm just going to read a few verses again here from chapter 11, okay? And then I'm going to look at Haykal, Ezekiel chapter 22, very quickly, in light of Yasharal, in light of us as a people. A false scale is an abomination to Yahuah, but a perfect weight is his delight. Pride comes, then comes shame, but with the humble is wisdom. The integrity of the straight ones guide them, but the slipperiness of the treacherous destroys them. Riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. The righteousness of the perfect makes his way straight, but by his own wrongness, the wrong one falls. Okay? Now I want to go over to Haykal, because Yasharal, we have a lot to learn from this. Yahuah, this is Yahuah's word to his people to keep us out of destruction. And yet, even though it was written to us and we have wisdom, yet Yasharal this never paid attention. And the very things that we were cautioned about in these writings is what we fell victim to. Maybe not fell victim to, but we just walk in them, and as a result inherited the curses. Ezekiel chapter 22, it says, "And the word of Yahuah came to me, saying, And now, son of man, judge the city of blood." The question was asked earlier, is it okay for us to judge? Yeah. "And now, son of man, judge the city of blood, and you shall show her all her abominations." Okay? "And you shall say, Thus said the sovereign Yahuah, the city sheds blood in her midst, that her time might come, and she has made idols within herself to become defiled." She has made idols within herself to become defiled. "You have become guilty by the blood which you have shed, and have defiled yourselves with the idols which you have made. Thus you have brought your days near, and have come to the end of your years. Therefore I shall make you a reproach to the heathen, and a mockery to all lands. Those near and those far from you mock you. Defiled is your name, and great the confusion. See, the leaders of Yasharal, each one has used his arm to shed blood in you. They have despised father and mother within you. They have oppressed the stranger in your midst. They have wronged the fatherless and the widow within you. You have despised that which is set apart to me, and you have profaned my Sabbaths. Slanderous men have been in you to shed blood, and in you are those who eat on the mountains. They have done wickedness in your midst. In you they have uncovered the nakedness of a father. In you they have humbled women who are defiled during their uncleanness. And the one has done abomination with his neighbor's wife, and another has wickedly defiled his daughter-in-law, and another within you has humbled his sister, his father's daughter. In you they have taken a bribe to shed blood. You have taken interest and increase. You have cut off your neighbor by extortion, and you have forgotten me, declares the sovereign Yahuah. And see, I shall smite my hand because of your greedy gain which you have made, and that the bloodshed which has been in your midst. Would your heart stand? Your hands remain strong? In the days when I deal with you, I, Yahuwah, have spoken and shall do it. And I shall scatter you among the heathen, and shall disperse you throughout the lands, and shall consume your filthiness out of you. And you shall profane yourself before the eyes of the heathen, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. The word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, the house of Yasharallah has become dross to me. All of them are bronze and tin and iron and lead. In the midst of a furnace they have become the dross of silver. Therefore, thus says the sovereign Yahuwah, because all of you have become dross, therefore, see, I am gathering you in the midst of Jerusalem. And as they gather silver and bronze and iron and lead and tin into the midst of a furnace, to blow fire on it, to melt it, so I gather you in my displeasure and in my wrath, and I shall blow and melt you. And I shall gather you and blow on you with the fire of my wrath, and you shall be melted in its midst. As silver is melted in the midst of a furnace, so are you melted in its midst. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah, that I, Yahuwah, have poured out my wrath on you. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, say to her, you are a land that is not cleansed or drained upon in the day of displeasure. There is a conspiracy of her prophets in her midst, like a roaring lion tearing the prey. They have devoured life. They have taken wealth and precious matters. They have made many widows in her midst. Her priests have done violence to my teaching, and they profane my set-apart matters. They have distinguished between the set-apart and profane. They have not distinguished between the set-apart and profane, nor have they made known the difference between the unclean and the clean. They have hidden their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I am profaned in their midst. Her leaders in their midst are like wolves tearing the prey, to shed blood, to destroy lives, and to get greedy gain. And their prophets have coded with them with whitewash, seeing a false vision and divining a lie for them, saying, Thus said the sovereign Yahuwah, when Yahuwah had not spoken. The people of the land have practiced oppression and committed robbery, and have wronged the poor and needy, and they oppressed the stranger without right ruling. And I sought for a man among them who would make a wall, not Donald Trump though, and stand in the breach before me on behalf of the land, that I should not destroy it, but I did not find one. Therefore I have poured out my displeasure on them. I have consumed them with the fire of my wrath, and I have put their way on their own head, declares the sovereign Yahuwah. Now what prompted me and why I wanted to read this is verse 6, I believe, over there in Mashali, in Proverbs chapter 11, where Yahuwah talk about wrath coming upon the wicked, you see. And so, family, that's how we are where we are. And you know, when we look at our condition, even in our captivity, the fact that we continue still to murder each other as a nation of people, it's when will we awaken? Because it's this kind of wickedness that led us into captivity as a nation. And so our people have got to awaken so that the curse may be broken. Now people have got to take heed so that the curse may be broken. It wasn't verse 6, but somewhere in there where I read, and that's where I'd mentioned, but talking about, so when we talk about the wicked, the righteous don't have to worry about the preservation even of their riches, because if you're living upright, it will not be stripped from you, but Yahuwah will protect you. But the wicked will be stripped, and they will see wrath. That was the verse that had me reflect on Yakazako 22. Even as my wife was reading it this morning, I reflected on that verse, thinking about that. Well, family, we're gonna stop here for this Shabbat, and if there are any comments or questions from the family,
Akeem.
Go ahead, Akeem.
Shabbat shalom to everyone in the room, and what another great lesson, as always.
Praise
I
your
was just
Lord.
going to give Yahuah all praise for another assembly, a chance to be assembled. I was going to ask you a question. I mean, you was talking about as far as the, wealth and riches. It was what's interesting passages in Sirach. I think it's, I want to say the 26th chapter, could be the 26th and the 33rd chapter. And I wanted to know if it's possible we can find that and go over that. It was just talking about far as the rich, and far as being rich and having the riches, you know, far as money and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know sometimes the translators kind of mess things up, but I would just want to know if you have time to maybe go over that.
Is it? You did say Sirach is what you said, Aki?
Yes.
Okay. Let me.
I believe it's either 26 or 26, or it's between 26 and 33. I know.
Okay, I don't remember the exact chapter right now. I have a printed version. I don't have it near me. Let me take a look at it. My wife's grabbing my copy here for me, Aki. So as soon as
Correction Service is my book.
okay.
So you know. You need to like it.
No, that's good enough. Let me see. Nope. Go this way. Trying to find it here real quick, Aki. I'm trying too hard. Oh, come on. I probably would have done better looking it up online. I'd get to it quicker, perhaps. Okay, let me see. I'm getting closer. 26 or 30.
Well, I'll go get a sugar, okay? Let me tell you
Interpreting times, probably. Okay, how about I'm 31. I'm gonna read that. Chapter 31. Okay. All right. I'm going to read a couple of them because it does deal with, for example, even what we spoke about earlier, being a co-signer. Oh, verse 30 in chapter 26. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, so verse 30 in chapter 26. All right, bear with me just for a second. Chapter 26. It might be the way they broke this down, but I have they have 29 verses here in chapter 26 in my printed form. But let's look at verse 1 of verse 27. Every salesman is guilty of sin. Many people have sinned while looking for a profit. If you want to be rich, you have to keep blinders on your eyes. It is hard to remove a peg that is stuck between two stones of a house, and it is just as hard to remove dishonesty. from buying and selling. Unless you are determined in your fear of Yahuah, your house is going to come down on you. Okay, that's good, and it's good to clarify what is actually being stated. And it is a fact that in business, when you're doing business, there's nothing wrong with doing business, but in doing business, you have to be focused, and in doing business, you got to recognize that what you're doing is business, right? And so if I'm doing business, if I'm selling oranges, and everybody I encounter, instead of charging them for the orange, I give them the orange, what's going to happen? I'm going to be out of business pretty quickly. In the same way, every hungry person that I encounter, let me put it that way. If I'm selling oranges, or if I have a restaurant, then so to speak, and there are tons of hungry people on the street, right? But if I have a restaurant, I'm running a restaurant, I'm not rich, I'm just doing business. I'm doing business, and that's the way I feed my family and try to help whoever I can, right? But in doing business, in running this restaurant, every hungry person without money that comes in, if I decide to give them a platter, then pretty soon I will have no restaurant, right? Pretty soon I'll have no business. So I'll have no income to provide for myself nor my family, or to do whatever little I can strategically, you see. So when in business, we have to be strategic, and not just in business, but even in life. We have to be strategic in our giving, because the reality is, the fact of the matter is that there is always more need than provision, right? And so even in helping people, we have to really think it through about how we direct our resources, because the reality is that we don't have enough to help everybody. And so I believe that's what is being mentioned here when it talk about putting blinders on, you see. And not that being in business you're going to be a corrupt business person, you see, but you have to treat it like a business, you know, or if not, you're certainly going to fail. You know, so every salesman is guilty. He says every salesman is guilty of sin. Exactly what that means, I don't know. Every salesman is guilty of sin. Maybe he's sin because he may be tempted to oversell what he is selling. You know, how should I put it? Embellish the facts about what it is that he is selling in trying to make the sale. It says every salesman is guilty of sin. Many people have sinned while looking for a profit, and that's certainly true. If you want to be rich, you have to keep blinders on your eyes. It is hard to remove a peg than it is that is stuck between two stones of a house, and it is difficult. It is just as hard to remove dishonesty from buying and selling, so it's not impossible to remove dishonesty from buying and selling, but it is difficult. Unless you are determined in your fear of Yahuah, your house is going to come down on you. Okay? So again, what I believe that is really the point that is being made, it is easy to fall into dishonesty in business, but it's not impossible to function with integrity. You know, I believe more so that is the point that is being made. But what did you get from it, Aki, as you read? Did I lose a key, Trevin? I think we did.
A key.
Yes, a key.
What I got from it is I was just I believe it was a little bit more I read. There's something else that I saw. But the business, I believe I have the same concept of what you were saying as far as being having integrity and first of all having Yahuah. If you don't have him, it's probably not going to go. It's probably going to go pretty much go down anyway because you're pretty much doing what the world is doing anyway. You're not being honest. But it was something else. I believe. I can't remember. It's somewhere in there. It was talking about business, and then it was talking about. I think later on it talks about the being rich. Period. Saying that it's almost lining up with Shaul and Timothy when he was talking about chasing the money. And the root of all, the root of the love of money is the root of, all evil. So it was kind of in that same segment because I know you were saying about wealth earlier, about being the difference between the prosperity teaching of the church and having the wealth that Yahuah said He was going to give to you. So I was just kind of going in that line of sense. I think it might be later on. That's what I said between 26 chapter and 30. I know 26 and 30 talks about business. I think it goes on until it might be going on to like 27 or something like that.
31, chapter 31.
Yeah, 31. That's probably where it's at.
Yeah.
That's probably more what I wanted you to kind of go over, but it's okay.
Yeah, I'll read it here very quickly. It says, worrying about money will make you lose weight and lose sleep.
Yeah. There we go.
Worrying about business will keep you from sleeping just as surely as a serious illness does. Rich people work hard to make a lot of money. Then they can sit back and live in luxury. Poor people work hard and make nothing to show for it. And when they rest, they are still poor. No one who loves money can be judged innocent if his efforts to get rich have led him into sin. Many people have been ruined because of money, brought face to face with disaster. Money is a trap for those who are fascinated by it, a trap that every fool falls into. A person who gets rich without sinfully chasing after money is fortunate. Do you know anyone like that? If so, we will congratulate him for performing a miracle that no one else has ever been able to do. If anyone has ever passed this test, he can well be proud. Has anyone ever known that he could get away with cheating someone and not taking advantage of it? So, if so, he deserves his wealth, and everyone will praise him for his generosity. I believe that is the text there, key. So what he is pointing out is, so you see, many people, these wealthy people, again, they have their wealth because of their what you call in the book of Mashali, it's treachery. You see, they're treacherous. It's like nobody else matters, and they'll trample any and everybody to get to the top. Nonetheless, not a Yahuah does and can favor his nation to be wealthy. So it's not a case against wealth, you see, but are you fascinated by wealth? Are you is it your life's goal to be wealthy? You see, no. And if I don't get up every day thinking about how to get rich. You see, I just get up living. But if Yahuah willing and he barak me with any kind of wealth, I know the purpose for it, and that is to be a barakah to his people. but I don't get up every day pursuing it, because just about any and everybody who have become wealthy, unless that money was inherited, it came at a very great price. It came at a very great cost. And so there is a certain kind of wealth, national wealth. You see, and that's the thing that I need to really emphasize here. When I talk about wealth for Yasharal, I speak about national wealth, because in Yasharal Yasharal's economy is not built on an idea of individuals being wealthy, because wealth is for the advancement of the nation, is for the purpose of the nation. So collectively, when we work together collectively, you can build national wealth for a nation. But the problem is, like in among the wicked, what you have is you have individuals working to become so wealthy that they have more. Their money is more than the GDP of some nations. You have wealthy people right here in America that have more money than whole nations. Whole nations. One individual with more money than whole nations. You see? And those are people who have trampled people down by all means necessary to get to that place. And so, when Yahuah speaks of wealth, nothing that Yahuah speaks in his word concerning his people is what you call from a selfish perspective or an individualistic perspective. You see, so wealth for Yasharal is a national thing, not in the sense that you see individual millionaires, for example, here in America and elsewhere, who only care about themselves. When Yahuah Barak his people, is for the baraka of his nation. And the way that we get there is to work together as a nation for, again, not for the benefit of an individual, but for the benefit of the nation. And so I believe that what this text warns against is that individualistic idea, that selfish motivation, you see, where people are working to make themselves wealthy, you see, rather than working together as a nation and having Yahuwah's favor and baraka on us in that sense. Yes, I've heard, I see a recent post about that, and in the Clinton Foundation. I don't know how true it is. I don't know how true it is. But I've heard that said, like, money that was collected, saying that it never went to Haiti, it went to the foundation. But again, I don't know how true it is. I don't know how true it is, but I know it is said. I see people put stuff out like that. I always only see it from a bipartisan perspective. So I don't know. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know how valid it is, No, I don't. I don't think so, Akut. I don't think I do. It seemed, the name seemed familiar, but I don't want to I'm not so certain. It may be something that I've looked into and I've forgotten now, but in some ways it seemed familiar, but then in some ways I can't remember any details about it. Hey, you're welcome, Dakut. And I need to jot it down and take a look again. Praise Father Aki, and to for bringing up those scriptures, Aki. There are others here also in the book of Sirach, and I'd forgotten about them earlier. But again, we didn't have enough time. But there are others that talks a lot about finances. That would be good to go over, but I'm not going to do that this evening. But as time goes on, we'll come back. Let's see. I'm looking for. Okay. All right. Okay, family. Well, I've kept you long. It's 6:47. I don't know if there are any other comments or questions before we close. Let's see. Okay. All right. I'm going to just check YouTube before I go anywhere else here. Bear with me just for a second. Okay. All right. Well, family, we're going to prepare to close out here. Once again, I want to say to you for being as patient as you've been. It is my hope that our fellowship today has been a baraka to you, and we'll continue to dig into Yahuwah's word, and may we be guided and encouraged and strengthened by it. And so we're going to prepare to close out here, family, and looking forward. Tomorrow evening. We're on tomorrow evening for Foundational Facts Fellowship, and so do look forward to those of you who can make it. Oh, there was a question. Oh, Hamashiach. No, well, you got it, Akut. Oh, the literally. Okay, literally. Okay. So, oh, not literally. Okay. No, that is it. So that is it. That is it. Yeah, so that is it. Where was it at? Okay, I'm trying to find it again. It was spelled correctly there, I thought. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, family, we're going to close out here today. Praise Yahuwah. And again, love and appreciate you all. So we're going to close out in prayer, family. Wow, we praise Yahuwah. Hallelujah. Abba Yahuwah, we thank and praise you for this time, for this fellowship. We thank and praise you for your word, Yahuwah, for your baraka, for your kindness. Hallelujah. We thank you that you continue to preserve and to guide and to lead us. And we pray that you would just continue to open our eyes to your word, Father, and to your truths, to those things that have been hidden from us. I pray, Yahuwah, that you would just continue to barak your set-apart people and to awaken your people. We pray for those who are ill, suffering. We pray that you would encourage and that you would deliver and that you would strengthen and that you would restore, that you would heal, Yahuwah. And just continue to cry out to you, Father, to reveal yourself and to encourage those who needs encouragement and to strengthen the weak, Yahuwah. Praise Yahuwah. And so we just barak you and we say Tuda Yahuwah for this time, for this fellowship, for your people scattered. Wherever we are scattered, I pray that you would just speak to the heart of your people. Do this, we pray, Abba. Pray that you would be with us in the coming week and days, Yahuwah, and that you would bring us back together again, safe, sound, and secured. Yahusha's name. Aman. Halahu Yahuwah. Well, family, may Yahuwah truly barak you and keep you. May Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and show favor unto you. May Yahuwah cause his face to shine upon you and to give you his shalom. May the name of Yahuwah be upon you. Hallelujah. Once again, it has been a baraka spending this time with you, Mashbaka, and Yahuwah willing, look forward to seeing you if you're able to join us tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Eastern for Foundational Facts Fellowship. I'm putting that information on the screen. And for those who may want to join us for tomorrow evening's Foundational Facts Fellowship. Again, Foundational Facts Fellowship is a forum where we come together and we encourage you to it's generally usually an open mic format. We encourage you to come and bring your questions and your comments. Things that we may not, be able to normally discuss here in the room. We encourage you to come and bring your comments and questions and so on, and we take the time to go over them from the scriptures. So, invite you to join us for Foundational Facts Fellowship tomorrow evening. That room number is different. It is on Fuse. It is 288-09-658, 288-09-658. And Yahuwah willing, we'll also have a YouTube live stream and Facebook live stream also. Well, we're going to prepare to close out here this evening, family. I'm going to say a little to Shalom. Yahuah. Shalom to the family on YouTube and also on Facebook, and to you on Fuse.